Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.
The SparkFile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spark File, your one-stop sweet shop for creative inspiration.
I'm Laura Camion.
And I'm Susan Blackwell. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. You may be asking yourself, what exactly is a Spark File? Where do I get a Spark File? What do I file in it? These are awesome questions, and we've got some answers.
Yes, we do. A Spark File is the place where you consistently collect all of your inspirations and fascinations. And if you're like us and you're making stuff all the time, sometimes the wellspring of inspiration can run a little dry. We are here to refill it.
So we're on the lookout for fresh ideas, images, and inspiration that spark our creativity and pique our curiosity, things that inspire us to get off our asses and make things like this podcast.
Or a Tony Award-winning performance.
Or even a conscious, kick-ass relationship with our siblings.
On today's Makersode, we're going to talk to someone who sparks us.
And that someone is a little lady I like to call Celia Keenan-Bolger. Celia, welcome to
The Spark File.
You guys, really good work. Really good work.
And we're out.
Thank
what if the
you.
introduction was the entire...
That's it. Thanks for coming.
Just a micropod.
We just wanted you to watch us doing that intro.
How'd we
You're
do?
done. You're released. Thank you for
Thanks
everything.
for all your hard work.
Thanks.
Bye.
We're so happy to have you here. You spark us
Oh my
so
God.
much.
So
So
much.
happy to be here, you guys.
So much. Celia, we kind of want to start at the beginning. Would you give us a little bit of your backstory, and in particular, in relation to creativity, and when you started to think of yourself as like, yeah, I might be a creative person?
So I grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
And my grandparents on my mother's side lived like 2 blocks away, and we were very close with them. And they were very, we were like all pretty poor, but there was like a cultural sort of rigor, particularly from my grandparents. There was like a lot of reading and a lot of records and a lot of like music, and my grandmother played the piano.
What do you remember? Like, what record did you wear out?
Oh my God. Well, The Sound of Music.
Oh,
That old Jim Jam.
I mean, heard of it.
Remember that?
Heard of it.
There was like a Hello Mudda, Hello Father.
Alan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that guy's
guy.
name? That was like,
So like comedy records.
Yes.
Musicals.
yes.
And what
Would you
kind of-
listen as a family?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would be, after my sister was born, which was when I was around 6 years old, I just went over to their house all the time. So it was really the 3 of us. Like my mother at one point, I remember being like,
was she like, get out of the house?
yes. But she was like, but you can't invite yourself to spend the night. And so I would just like do a whole bit. Maybe this is when I first found myself being creative, where I would sit at the dinner table with my parents and I would say, I love to spend the night at your house.
You know what I love about this house, Grandma, Grandpa? Spending the night.
Spending the night would be
And they would say, well, would you like to spend the night tonight? And then I would lie in bed with them while they would read a chapter book to me. And my grandfather would cry. My grandfather was an incredibly emotional and highly evolved.
Sensitive.
Oh, what a sweetie.
Like what book? What you
Little Women is the first one that I remember.
Shut
Come on.
your goddamn mouth.
I know.
Your grandparents would read you Little Women,
Yes,
and your
Little Women
grandfather
and
would weep.
yes. He was, I mean, it's so, they were.
Special.
They were.
Yeah.
My grandmother was like a genius who grew up on a farm, who her sisters were like, you're never, ever going to get married because you're like a marmy librarian type.
Whoa.
And then she met my grandfather. And
She
they
found
were like
this gem.
Yeah. And they were like, and then they had 7 kids.
So many kids.
Why so many kids?
Wait, they had
That's how-
7.
that's how you do
my
it then, right?
gosh.
I guess.
I guess.
Holy moly.
Nightmare.
Where did your mom fall in that?
She was a twin, and she was the second oldest.
That's so interesting.
Wow.
We were talking about Zach Quinto's
Aunts, the twins.
Yes, the
twins.
twins.
Sorry, I was like twins.
Twins.
Twins will change
We're
the course of your
sensing
life.
a
They
theme,
will.
too.
And so that was sort of the like
aunts.
the aunts. I mean, I met them all the time. They were
my
always
gosh.
around. So they were sort of the first exposure, just like as a kid, to art and music. And then my parents took me to a children's theater production of The Sound of Music.
Okay.
And I was like,
Yep.
I want to do that thing.
Do you remember how old you were
I
when you
think I was 5.
and you were like,
That thing. And I remember the woman sitting next to me, like I couldn't quite sit still. And the thing that I remember the most is that I kept kicking the woman next to me. And she would like move my little foot back to where it was supposed to be. And then like 20 minutes later, she would move my little foot back. That's honestly, I mean, that's my main memory of the
Crazy, though.
but simultaneously inside you were like,
that
that's
thing.
that's me.
I
I'm
want to
going to do that.
Yes.
Did you have a sense? Cam, this is a question for you too.
Okay.
I'll start by saying I actually, when I was younger and I would see things on stage and watch things on television, I would think that I want to do that. And I'm pretty sure I can do it better than you. Like soap operas.
Yes.
I was like, this is
Yes.
hack. And I can do it better than you.
Yeah. Or I had the
Big for my
version of
britches.
that was like, I really hope someone gets sick tonight and that they just pull someone from the audience.
Is there a little girl in
do
the audience?
need
who can-
Guys, no problem. I would be happy to take this
I love
person's
those
place.
fantasies. I feel like I still, at my tender age, have fantasies like that.
That's awesome.
Did you ever feel it when you watched
I did. I
things?
felt like you. I was like, oh no, let's go back. I'll say that line.
Yeah,
I'll give that to you.
I can do that
Yeah,
better.
I was like, yeah, so
So
bad.
that's when you started having that feeling of like, I could do that.
Yes. I want to ask you, when you reflect back in your life in its entirety, is there a defining moment that you sort of feel like my life before this, my life after this?
Do you divide your life up like that?
It's funny. I don't know that I've really thought about this. It's such a good question. I do remember I had like a crazy summer before 8th grade,
This is not where I thought we were going.
which
Where we
is-
found a dead body down by the river.
It's changed
Wait, what were you
after
going to
that.
say?
where I was, my parents found this thing called the Peace Child Foundation. You know about the Peace Child Foundation. We haven't talked about it.
I know Up With People, something like that.
It was basically, so there's this philosophy in Papua New Guinea when there are tribes that are feuding, that they send a child from each tribe. They like swap tribes.
Whoa.
And that child like lives among the people so that as they are pursuing conflict resolution, they have this child with them.
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And that they're holding this child as part of like how they treat the other side. So this whole idea was then, this was still during the Cold War. So they were like, we'll do the same thing with the United States and the Soviet Union.
Oh.
So I went to Russia as a
You were
peace child.
chosen to be a
heard
peace
this.
child?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think for like $2,000 that we had to pay, that we had like a fundraiser that my parents like threw so we could raise money. And I went to Russia with these other Americans, with like 15 other Americans, and we made this play with Russians in Russia.
Wow.
And then I came back And then I did a production of Runaways. And it was like that moment was where I was like, oh, theater. Up to that point, I had just been like, theater is the fucking best. And singing and musicals are the best. And I love it.
I love it.
And this was like, it was like a more serious moment where I was like, oh, wait, it can also be transformative, or it can be deeper or more important than just like singing and dancing.
Yes, like
That's
it's going to
right.
have social impact. I'm curious how
amazing.
that, I mean, I would love to hear you talk more about, I feel like you live this. I feel like you embody it, how that summer in Russia with that
And the
program.
Runaways.
And then Elizabeth Swados, is that who that is? How that impacted you creatively. Because I feel like you live this now. Son of a bitch.
Interesting. I think, you know what? The first thing that comes to my head is the otherness of it all. That I was like, I felt so on the outside, even though I was very much on the inside of both of those experiences. There were so many others, like obviously with the Russians, that we were constantly trying to find, like, what is the shared space? Like, where does the Venn diagram come together? And then in Runaways, like, they sort of did a thing where it was like a bunch of kids from inner city Detroit and then some kids from the suburbs. And of course, I lived in Detroit, but I was white. And all the rest of the kids from the suburbs were white, but all of the kids from Detroit were black. And so they were trying to do this thing that was like, you know, what are these like shared experiences? And I felt like, particularly in that Runaways experience, I was like, I'm actually as comfortable hanging with the black kids as I am with the white kids. And like, can I be a little bridge in this creative process so that like we don't all like sit at different tables at lunch?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is really a good answer to this question, but
I will also say, not to lead the witness, but I will also say that I feel like you give, right now, I don't know when y'all are listening to this podcast, but right now, Celia is performing in To Kill a Mockingbird, a Tony Award-winning turn, a scalp finch. And I feel like you have brought so much of like this thoughtfulness to the underpinnings and all the surrounding, you know, when I listen to you talk about it, when I watch your performance, I feel like this 8th grade summer lives in that.
100%. And that I'm not sure I've ever had an experience where I was like, oh, I feel like my whole life like led to this, that like I was going to be like using all of these resources that I've accumulated that aren't just about like doing shows.
That's right.
That are like actual like different creative experiences and just being like a human in the world.
Yes.
That suddenly, which is why I think it's also been so like gratifying for me, and also that maybe I've had so much success in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You got those good deep roots.
Yeah.
Those good 8th grade Russian roots.
Oh my God. Well, being a bridge in general, like there's so many applications for that in life that could be useful and in this particular industry, but bridging, you know, between castmates who come from disparate, you know, experiences, bridging between the audience, just that like
Bridging between, I'm just thinking right now, like between the creatives and the laborers.
That's right.
That like being a person that is able to really navigate that relationship, I think has served me like as much as all of my technique or whatever I like bring to the table.
Yeah.
There's something about, this is like a little sidebar, please enjoy my ramblings. I've been thinking a lot about something I heard a long time ago, which is sometimes like if you have unresolved pain and old wounds that haven't been processed, it can be really hard, nigh on impossible to like lift up your head and look out and acknowledge other people's experiences and be of service to other people. And so sometimes it takes like cleaning up that stuff inside to like lift your head up and just like with a like clear eyes and a full heart. Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights.
Like be of service to other people. And there's something about, and I'm not saying that your life has been pain-free and trauma-free, because I know that is not true. But there's something about your family and the way that they raised you, that they prioritized it, I think, from an early age, like to lift up your head and to be empathetic and to like be that bridge.
Yeah, I think that is true.
Not
and
to
it
butter
like
your
goes
bread,
back
but yeah.
so nice. But it really does, like when I think about it, it goes back. I feel like everybody's story of their grandparents is like, yeah, you just can't, there are certain things you can't talk about with my racist, homophobic grandparents.
Yes.
Right.
And
But
then
you
I'm
didn't
like,
have that.
no. And I don't understand like what they understood.
Right. Because they're
But
before their
maybe-
time in a way.
Maybe it was all of that. You're talking about like both of your a very empathetic grandfather and a grandmother who read a lot, which I think does open the eyes up.
That's true.
And like gives you access. If you read a lot, it really does give you, depends on what you're reading, but it can give you a lot of access to the world and a lot of different viewpoints and dimensions. I will say thank you to, I assume your grandparents have passed. Thank you,
just
to the
tipped the
bones.
imaginary
I tipped
hat,
my
too.
imaginary
We're
hat to the
tipping
bones of your
hats.
grandparents, because I feel like your whole family is so, like your siblings are solid as fuck.
That's
too.
right.
You know what I will
huge.
say though, is that I think
Actually, about my siblings.
actually, I talk about this in therapy all the time, that there is, with a family like this, there comes that the way that you process big feelings or pain is very, very healthy. Like everything is talked about, but there is not necessarily a ton of room for like sloppy emotion.
Interesting.
And that is a place, I mean, I think it's part of why I love being an actor so much.
Because you can slop it around.
Correct.
That's right.
But that
That's
is
right.
something I think about a lot as a parent, that I'm like, it's not about like, go get yourself together and come back to me, or we're not doing that in this family, because if we're as well-adjusted and strong and empathetic as they were, I do think the one sort of blind spot in there is emotional mess is not something that we're really.
I appreciate you telling the
That's
tale.
right.
I appreciate you like telling the truth about that. Because I don't mean to like deify them, but that's interesting.
Yes.
But you still get your yayas out on stage. So there's that. Good job.
Yes.
When you reflect on what you've created so far in your life, from this moment to the beginning of you, what is the thing that you are the most proud of?
And the most that I'm the most proud of creatively, or just
Let's do creatively.
it might be To Kill a Mockingbird. That's a crazy thing to say.
You know what's fun? You're doing it right now.
That's right. You're doing it right now.
Why is that
And why
crazy to
is that
say?
Just because it's happening right now.
Well, savor it.
What
Savor
about it? I mean, there's obvious things I can imagine people would be proud of to be a part of it, but how does that live for you?
I think in the ways that we just talked about, because it felt like I was bringing so much of myself.
Yes, it synthesized so many parts of you and so many superpowers and so many interests and so many things that make your heart beat faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
makes
that
sense to
is
me.
like so nourishing. And I also think the fact that I'm a little bit older now, and that there was a way that I felt in this process, and maybe it's because I've worked with Bart 2 other times, but that I felt
director, To Kill a Mockingbird.
correct, Tony Award winner, not for To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow.
That I knew I could be. I think my whole identity of being an actor in the past is like, just be fucking cool, be easy, be a collaborator. Don't take up all the air in the room, because we've been in those rooms where
Yes.
And I was like, just be cool, and then when you need help, you'll get it, because you haven't asked for it the whole time.
That's right. You're saving it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really, really did not do that this time. That I was like, I am going to be difficult as fuck.
What?
Yes.
And
Tell me more.
that I felt like I was with somebody who could take it, that he actually
You had a
could.
relationship.
Yes. And that I learned about myself that like my version of being difficult, as it turns out, is not that difficult.
It's not that difficult. I can't even imagine.
I feel like it goes straight back to the thing with your grandparents, the blind spot, the
right.
messy emotions.
Totally.
No
Let
room
her
for
have
it.
it.
Get yourself together, then come back, and then we'll have a conversation, young lady.
Yes.
But no, you were like, I'm going to bring some mess, and I'm going to bring some.
I'm going to keep asking, like, and I think every other show I have done, there comes a scene or a moment in either the play or the musical where I'm like, what is going on here? Like, what is this moment? What is this? I hate this.
Does anyone know what this
I don't know
moment
how
is?
to do this.
Yes.
And night after night, I'm hitting my head against the same moment. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I was like, I am going to do my best for there to be zero moments like that in this show. And you guys, I mean, there are things that I'm still always like, this is like thorny, but and I think what's so amazing about Bart is that he was not there to solve problems. He was there to ask more questions, that he was like, I think we just have to like keep, that he was never like, it's this.
He was like, I don't know. Let's
sort
figure
of
it out.
lead you to
I don't know.
it.
Let's put it on the question list.
Or he would come back the next day and he was like, I read this thing and it made me think about that thing you were asking about, and you should read this thing.
That's so collaborative.
Very collaborative.
Wow.
I love hearing that. So the thing you're proudest of, To Kill a Mockingbird, real time realness, I love it. Can you trace it back to the original spark? Did you love this book? Had you been exposed to it as a younger person? What was the original To Kill a Mockingbird spark? That's how I pronounce it.
This is, I mean, there are like two parts of this. And one is that it was like one of the first books that I remember my mother reading to me.
Shitballs.
That it was like a chapter book before I could read chapter books.
That's amazing.
So that was amazing. And then the other is that when I was auditioning for my first play ever, The Grapes of Wrath, at the Hillberry Theater in Detroit, Michigan, they asked for a monologue. And I was like, I don't really know what a monologue is, because I've only been in meetings. And I was like, it's just a lot of talking. And my mother was like, well, there's that speech in To Kill a Mockingbird when she like sees Mr. Cunningham. That's a lot of talking. And like, you could just do that speech.
Yes. Just rip the page right out of the book.
So we went through the book and was like, okay,
I'll take that.
So you did it as a monologue when you were wee for your first play audition. Did you get the part? Did you book?
Get the part.
You booked.
That's
Excellent.
so good.
So that was the initial baby spark when you were a baby. And then how did it meet you at this point in your life?
Well, I got a call to come play this part. Well, no, I got a call. They were, it had been announced. And they were like, would you do Aaron Sorkin a favor? And I was like, I will do that. I will do that.
Sure.
And they were like, obviously
Consider it.
they're going to cast kids in this part because
Right.
because it's To Kill a Mockingbird, but he needs to work on the play. And would you just come and read the first draft out loud?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that he can work on it, because they're just they're not giving advanced copies. Blah,
Like
blah,
a
blah,
good,
blah, blah.
smart
That's
read.
right.
Yep.
And help him understand where he needs to work on it.
Wow.
And then you read that around a table.
And he decided.
And were they
And they were
like,
like,
you got the
There's
job.
no going back. Yeah. That's amazing.
But it was.
Did you get a call from your agent? Is that how you
I
found
got
out?
an email from Scott Rudin.
Wow. Yes.
That's awesome.
And you say, yes,
Were you like,
will I do
absolutely
a favor?
not?
Well, of
Yes,
course.
I will.
I was like, well, what
are the terms?
Exactly.
That's right. Tell me more.
Yeah. It was many, it's like I don't know. The universe was like,
Yes.
this is all.
There's something about the synthesis of
working
all
out.
of this for you that I'm
Yes.
enjoying very much.
I know.
That's right. It all feels so right. So can we look at the flip side of that for a second? Is there anything, because this all feels like it happened so easily, but for the mere mortals among us, myself included, is there anything that you struggle with when it comes to creativity that you'd be willing to share for the rest of us?
I don't really struggle with it. No, oh my God. I mean,
It's all effortless.
One of the things I will say this, just sidebar, like one of the things I do love about you is how authentic and honest you are about like when things give you the strugs. You'll sort it. I feel like you're pretty good about like sorting it out in real time. Oh my God.
I think it's great for people to know, because a lot of people that we work with and who are listening are, who frankly hit a bump in the road and are like, well, I guess if it was meant to be, there wouldn't be any bumps in the road. And that's just not true.
No, I think in some ways, the higher, the more
Bumpy.
you get, the more bumps. They're different bumps.
More money, more problems.
Interesting.
Biggie Smalls. So what do you...
But I suppose I mean, where to even like where to begin?
Pick one.
Let me think of, like right now in my life, what I am feeling is how does one follow up this experience?
That's interesting.
Boy. Yeah.
Because I am not only like so enormously gratified
Yeah.
inside of it, but I've also gotten a lot of attention sort of externally.
Right.
And it feels like the next thing is extremely important. And a little bit of what we were talking about before
Yeah.
you started
Yeah.
the interview of like, okay, I have this wonderful moment.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up. So like
That's what I was saying
Yeah.
to Celia. I was like, do not fuck this up. And then I flipped the table.
not at all
It's
what she
really
was saying.
scary sometimes.
But we were just saying, like, it, you know, now I have.
Choose wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it feels like, and the truth is, I mean, I think I know this in my bones, like, the next decision will be the right decision. Like,
That's
there's
right.
no such thing. But in this moment, I feel an enormous amount of pressure to pick the right follow-up.
We were actually having this conversation with Zach, and I'm sure he's had this conversation with you because you all are dear friends. But he was saying how after he did, was it Angels? He felt this. He felt the need to do, or it might have been, no, it was Glass Menagerie. He felt the need to do, he was like, I got to do a movie. I got to do like a big movie.
Right, he had
and
an
he was like,
idea.
he said he was on the plane to do the movie and he was like,
I don't want to
What
be
did
in
I
this.
wrong
do?
choice.
Yeah. Because he had a set vision
had
of
a
like, it'll be
vision.
theater than movie, theater than movie.
Yes.
And he thought he had to stick to it because he had made that picture.
So what we're trying to say to you is it's got to be a movie and it's got to be an
It's
action
got to be a big
movie.
one.
I remember
Superhero.
Just, like, training for it. It was huge. I mean, this is also something that I am at odds with in myself, which is that right now, the most important next thing I can do for myself is recharge the battery,
That's
which
right.
is one of
That's
my least
right.
favorite things to
I
do.
know,
in
you
the
little
world.
extrovert. You like to be out in the world.
to.
But here's what I want to say to you. I think, not to add, like just rub salt into your wound, but I think another potential challenge is this project is the synthesis of so much that inside you, so much like that gives you a visceral response, so much that makes your heart beat faster, so much that you care about. It's all sort of braided together in this beautiful project. And it's sort of like, yeah, I do think you have to examine like what else makes my heart beat
Yes.
fast.
And that is actually more important than what a person who has been in a hit show who wins a Tony does next.
That's
because I think the
right.
brain immediately,
Yeah.
my
Yes.
brain is like, well, you obviously have to get a television show.
So it's a franchise, right?
Yeah.
It's an action franchise. I want Celia Keenan-Bolger
It's
to be
Marvel or nothing.
I want her to be the next Bond. That's my pick. I have a question. Like, what's one of the biggest failures that you have, or challenges? It can be a challenge, it can be failure that you have faced, and how have you processed it, and how has it impacted your creativity now?
I mean, I would say in general, the thing that I am constantly disappointed in myself about, or not constantly, but fair amount, is just follow through. That like I was at this benefit last night that these women put together, this Hysterical Women Society, and I was like, I will show up to any of these things, but I cannot make the thing. Like I am, and it like even extends, like I'm such an interpreter. Like I don't think I am a creator. I am a straight up interpreter.
Do you look at yourself? Do you think that reflects poorly on you, or are you like, this is who I am and I embrace
think that's
it?
who I am.
Yeah.
But I do think there are so many things, both like politically and creatively, that I'm
Yes.
like, I've got this great fucking idea, and nothing's ever gonna happen. to
Here's my
it.
idea. You take this Tony win, you just blow up, you get that franchise, you get that action franchise, your next James Bond. Then you create a production company, and you can have those great ideas, and then your team can
Other
execute
people
them.
will make
Yeah,
them.
well, that's the thing. Yeah.
maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I
You're a
think
benevolent leader.
Do you not have the desire out of curiosity? You're like, oh, it is a great idea, but I just like, I don't want to make it. Or do you feel like I couldn't make it?
Oh, good
that's a really good question.
Thanks,
Because they're
guys.
hard to, they are hard to sort of separate. Because I was talking about this last night also with Betty Gilpin, where I was like, I'm now at an age, it's the whole Ira Glass thing, where it's like now I've been around so many talented people and people operating at a very high level.
Yes. Yeah.
Why on earth would I throw my hat in the ring with zero, to write something?
Yes,
say.
but my thing is like if that's not how you are moved to move, I'm like,
Right.
then why are you trying to like
Right.
shove a square peg into a round hole?
And I think that is also it's a tricky thing because it's like you have to create your own content. You have to create your own content. And I'm like, this guy over here is interested in interpreting somebody else's content.
Word. Yeah.
But that's,
Yeah.
Do you share those ideas with anyone though? Because like a collaboration partner who could put words on the paper for you to interpret.
It's funny. I have been trying. I can't remember where I was. It was like some social justice situation, but that they were talking about saying ideas out loud and the importance of speaking ideas in a room, that just to be like that will carry maybe someplace else.
Yeah.
And so
That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
We're just like, we're not going
Here's
to do
ideas.
it.
Here's
We're not
ideas.
going to do all the things that
Yes.
we're just sharing sparks. And if
Yep.
somebody wants to write that screenplay, write it.
Yes.
If somebody wants to organize that political activism campaign,
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
Because we have other stuff that we're doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that are taking
Yeah.
But
your
we don't want
energy.
those ideas to be lost.
No,
You know,
I think
someone,
that's-
it's going to stick to someone and they're going to be like, that's
You
the
can
thing
be
I
the
want to
co-host of the
dedicate.
Spark File. I think that's your next big project.
Welcome, Celia.
What is the thing you need to do before you're done? Is there a thing, like a big idea or a role? Like, is there a thing that you need to do before you're done?
I mean, I'm just going to go with the first thing that comes to my head, which is that I would get to like do like some sort of a repertory situation where I was playing a bunch of different roles at once.
Ooh. You will get snatched up. You say the word,
They would
people
be so
will be
lucky.
like,
You
we've
go
got
to
your
the Guthrie,
repertory right
you go to,
here.
like, they would be so lucky to have you.
Right now, people will begin to build seasons around
Guthrie
a
Theater.
rep
We've
for
got a
you.
spark for you. Have we got a spark for you? Her name is Celia Keenan-Bolger.
We're making some calls
That's
tomorrow.
interesting. I never knew that about you.
I mean, I don't know that I really knew that about me either.
That's
but
really
Look what
cool.
we're learning in real time.
that's right.
That's really cool. Any chance, this is a sidebar, but any chance you have any idea of what some of those shows would be in
Funsies.
rep?
Oh, I feel like two of them would be new and one of them would be old.
I thought you were going to say
Okay.
two of them would be nude.
Newsies is what I thought. And I was like,
Newsies
that's interesting.
and nudity.
And nudity.
So, oh, Calcutta, Newsies. This is going to be an amazing season for the Guthrie. Sorry, Guthrie.
Celia, I have to ask you this question that sometimes haunts me. Every so often, I just kind of get kicked in the gut with this question out of nowhere. And the question is, what's it all for?
Oh my God.
What's it all for?
It always surprises me when it comes up and I'm like, there you are. What's it all for? Do you have a sense of
You're working real hard. What's it all for?
Yeah.
I mean, truly. I would say selfishly, what it's all for is creating a community of artists and relationships that are like the
Fucking
most.
Yes. You
That
really
is
are
it.
going to be a co-host.
That's how you
on this
do What's It All
yes,
For.
That's it right
Well
there.
played.
Nice.
And finally, what is sparking you these days? I feel like you're sparking a lot of people with your sparkiness.
That's
both
right.
on stage and also just like in your social media, etc. But what's sparking
Everywhere.
you, girl?
I will say this is a hard question because my bandwidth for like even taking in
Yeah.
That's the truth right there.
Yeah.
it is. I did just start watching When They See Us.
You did.
I did, and I it's so good and so hard. And I think in a strange way, like I do have a higher threshold. Like I'm enjoying The Handmaid's Tale. Where people are like, what the fuck are you watching that for? It's
It's a little hard.
It hurts.
right now.
It
And
hurts,
similarly, but that I feel like that show is like both nostalgic to me and for something that I never experienced.
Which one?
When They See Us.
When They See Us. Ava DuVernay, if you're listening to the sound of our voices,
Ava.
thank you. Thank you for the sparks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also will just say, in an effort to get off my phone a little bit more, I've read like 10 books in the last.
Ooh,
what's
best
your favorite?
one,
Best pick?
The last one I just read was called Ask Again, Yes. You
Ask
guys.
Again,
Ask
Yes.
Again, Yes.
Do you know who wrote that?
Her name is Mary Beth Keane.
I love the way you pulled that out of your ass.
Yes,
Good
it's
job.
nice. I gotta say, my line is next, and that is thank you so much. Thank you.
guys,
I don't
wish it
want
could
this
go
to
on
end.
forever.
Go to your show.
No, but one of us has a really fancy show to do,
And it's not me. And it's not Laura.
It's not us.
Guess that was the co-host.
That's right. We're losing a co-host today,
We
and
also
that's
wanna
really
thank
sad.
This little Norwood Club. We're recording today at the
Yes.
Norwood Club, so thanks for letting us sit in
Thank
this
you.
fancy room on 14th Street and record this podcast.
Thanks, Norwood.
That's it. Suckers, we hope this put another bunch of sparks in your file. If there's a spark that you'd like us to explore, or if you've taken a spark and you fan that little spark into a creative flame and you'd like to share it, won't you email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com or
Yes,
submit it
please.
through our website? That's right. We've got a website. And be sure to subscribe to this delicious podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. And if you like this podcast, share it with people that you love. And if you didn't like it, share it with people you wish ill upon.
If something tickled your fancy today or got your creative juices flowing, we are writing you a forever permission slip to make that thing that's been knocking on your door. It's your turn to take a spark and fan it into a
You
flame.
got to fillet it. You got to saute it. You got to turkey baste it. You got to Elmer's paste it.
You just take it and make it.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I wanna make or how I wanna be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the chief creative officer and chief marketing officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.